Here we are now with episode 8 of Learning to Breathe. Today I'd like to talk about OSHO meditations. Now we have had an extended episode on an introduction to OSHO meditations because there's a whole world and there's a vast richness to all the different meditations which OSHO has invented. So if you'd like to learn more about OSHO meditations as a broad introduction, I suggest you listen to that episode. Today we're focusing on just some of the breathing techniques and the sections in his meditations that involved the breath. Of course, dynamic meditation, stage 1, has fast chaotic breathing out the nose without rhythm, concentrating only on the out-breath. And this is for emotional release. And then, of course, there's also the who jumping, which is sort of like a mantra, but it does involve the breath. It does have a breath component to it. And I talked about dynamic meditation in more detail in that other episode. So if you want more detail on that, I suggest you listen there. Another meditation that I have done and found very useful and helpful was the No Dimensions meditation. Now, this meditation doesn't specifically have instructions for the breath, but I noticed as I did it that it, in a way, regulated the breath through the mantra and the body movement and the synchronization with the music. So what you do is you have this hand movement where you're sort of moving the palms of your hands up the center of your body and you're pushing. You do this gesture, this mantra, which is shoo. You're going shoo as you push your hand. And there's also step movements which change your direction. So it's like a little dance or a body coordination awareness technique. And I think maybe he gets these from the Sufis, and it's also quite similar to Gurdjieff movements. So Gurdjieff movements have these arm positions or leg positions, and you do them like a dance, and you're doing them in order, and you're doing these counting things. And all these sort of movements are designed to bring you into an awareness, an immediate awareness of what your body is doing. So it forces you to be aware of your body. Now with this shoo sound, the air, now we talk about air regulation, the air goes out at a consistent pace and at a controlled pace each time. Now, this sound shoo, you can hear the air and how it goes out. It's not exactly pushing the air out, and it's not exactly retaining the air. Now, when we talk or when we sing, there's a holding of the breath that the air takes to just breathe out, gets the air out quicker than if you're doing a mantra or a sound. Now, this shoo sound, it doesn't actually entirely involve the voice. Shoo. It can a little bit. It can engage it there. But it's sort of somewhere between retaining air and pushing the air out. And also, of course, the music that we synchronize with when we do this no-dimension meditation, it gradually speeds up. So many of the breathing techniques that we've talked about, like 4-part breathing or body synchronization, they have a gradual component to them, which means that you're starting your breathing technique at a certain pace and then slowly extending it to a certain pace, either extending it or shortening it. Because if you suddenly change your breathing pattern, then what happens is there's an adjustment and you lose your breath. But with no dimensions meditation, you get this wonderful arc and this wonderful slow movement into a different breathing sensation, which is done with body coordination and with the mantra Shu. Osho also has a Vipassana meditation, and it's one of those meditations where he's sort of just taken the traditional meditation and watered it down. So in some cases I say that's a good thing, but I sort of feel Vipassana works as a traditional thing. I'm a bit of a Vipassana purist. If it works, why change it? And Osho always seemed to have to change the traditions and improve on them. And so many things he did improve on. There's so much that he did bring into our modern world of meditation. So it's not a criticism. It's just that Vipassana, when he says watch the breath and fall into the witness for Vipassana meditation, you sort of miss so many of the details and the components of traditional Vipassana. So that's watching the breath for Osho Vipassana meditation, and that is to be distinguished as different from traditional Vipassana meditation or Buddhist Vipassana meditation. Another Osho meditation which has a breathing technique is the Gaurashankar Meditation. So this is the Himalayas or the mountain meditation. And I can't remember which stage it is, but I think it's either the first or the second. But you take in, and this is one of the ones where you are forcing yourself, well, not forcing, but you're deliberately retaining as much breath as you can. You're holding biggest breaths as you can. So most emotional release breathing techniques are to do with getting rid of the air. The general curve is to get rid of the air. And the breathing techniques that are to get you high or to change your state for an ecstasy or a bliss, they retain the air. And there's lots of different ways you can do that. But in this one, he has this breathing technique of in the mouth and out the nose. And more sort of personally, I say that this Gaurashankar meditation it's working with the head, because you feel lightheaded when you retain more oxygen than you put out. And that's the sensation of bliss. That's the sensation of being high. And this works very well with another stage in Gaurashankar, which is the strobe light gazing. So you gaze, you do it in a dark room, and there's this blue strobe light, so flashing light, flash, 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 over and over. And the instructions are to gaze at it. Now, this does neurological things, and energetically speaking, it's supposedly the awakening of the third eye. And you can get this sensation right in the middle of your forehead if you relax your gaze and you stare at this strobe light. And the combination of that with the breathing and the lightheadedness gives you this sense of, oh, I don't have a head. Now, I'm one who walks around with a very big head. In some ways, quite literally, in some ways, psychologically as well. And this thing of the mind, like so much of Osho's work was to do with ridding us of the mind. Well, not ridding, but how to deal with the mind and how to let go of the mind, how to drop the mind. So the sensation of not having a head or being lightheaded or having this feeling that we're looking out of our head can be dissolved. It can be changed. We can move down into our chest. We can move down into our heart, or we can move into our sex center, or we can move into our hora or our bellies. And we can feel this lifting sensation in our heads instead of this weight. So this thing of your thoughts are a weight on your mind. Things are heavy on my mind. And this pushing of, oh, my head is sitting on my shoulders and pushing down into my neck. There's a lot of neck and tension in the shoulders, neck tension and shoulder tension that comes from just the feeling of having a heavy head. So this Gaurashankar meditation with the breathing technique and the strobe gazing is great for working with that sensation. Or we could say that phenomenological experience, that part of your personal subjective experience. Now, another thing I notice in Kundalini meditation, in the first stage where you're shaking, this is also not a breathing, there's no breathing technique instructions given for this, but if you breathe out your mouth during the first stage of Kundalini shaking, you'll notice that you have this breathing pattern which is similar to the laughter breathing pattern. Now, if you listen to the episode where we were talking about expression, I explained the laughter breathing technique there for you. And it's a breathing out, but it's broken. It's like a that sort of sound. I can't do it because I'm sitting at the moment. But as you do your shaking and you become aware of your breathing, which you will if you breathe out your mouth, then you'll have this sort of these two things happening at once in the breathing. One is the slow breathing in and out, and that's the actual movement, or how you would say your conventional breathing. But over the top of that, there's these hits. There's the shake. The shake is moving the lungs. Now, another way of seeing this is just beating your chest. So if you have just like so that was one breath out, and I was just beating on my chest. And if I use my voice to help demonstrate, it's like the So that is one way of having that breathing pattern, but I'm beating on my chest. Now, with Kundalini shaking, you get the same thing, but without the beating, without your arms being engaged. So you're shaking in a different area of your body. You're shaking in a different way. So experiment with Kundalini meditation, and the first stage, either breathing out the mouth is one way to make it really obvious, or even just to be aware of your breathing and to slow your breathing. So that's something there. Now, another OSHO meditation, and this is specifically for breathing technique, this is chakra breathing meditation. And what happens with this one is you only breathe out the mouth, and there's a different speed for each chakra, and they move through the chakras systematically. Now, chakras is an energetic body term. So we're talking about the energy body, not the physical body. And if you don't understand that, then I suggest you go back and listen to one of my episodes about, I think it would have been titled, You Have 5 Bodies. It was quite a big episode. And in that episode, we discussed what the different bodies are and how you can distinguish them and how you can get in touch with them. So if I'm talking about chakras and energy body and it's not making any sense to you, catch up on your homework on that. In a nutshell, the chakra breathing meditation. Now, one thing I really like about this meditation is if you watch the official instructions for this, the video instructions, there's a woman in that video who's demonstrating it, and she has her hands just in front of each chakra on her physical body as she breathes for each stage. And each breath, she's pushing, she's sort of just, it's almost like fanning it or fluffing it. She's doing a little small gesture towards the chakra, to wherever it is. So she starts with her hands down. They're in front of her sex center, her pelvic area, and she's just fluffing in, and she's doing each hand gesture like a little flick. She's doing the ha, 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 like that. So it's breathing in the mouth, in and out the mouth for each chakra, and she moves her hands upwards for each stage. So then it's from the pelvic area to the navel area, and then into the chest area, the heart center, the throat chakra, the third eye, which is just between your eyebrows, and then the crown chakra. And you can see her hands moving faster. And of course, the music supports this because it's a faster frequency, or I can't remember if it's the pitch or the tempo. However it is, the music supports the speed of each chakra. And so you have these 7 stages and 7 different sections of speed, and also of body synchronization, and also the range that happens throughout this entire process. And it's quite an elaborate breathing technique because it's got so many stages to it. And then of course there's also repeats for it. So you're moving through them and you're learning to navigate them. So chakra breathing meditation is a really, really powerful technique. And the sequencing of each of them is greatly supported by the music. And I suggest that you use your hands like this lady does in the instructions. It is quite rare that a breathing technique has only out the mouth. That's one of the unique things about chakra breathing meditation, because it's all about the mouth, breathing only through the mouth. And it's so rare that we do that. It's so rare that even that in and of itself can be a breathing technique. Like if you just block your nose and you just breathe out your mouth, if you stay in that for 10 minutes or more, I guarantee something will happen. Well, I mean, there's no guarantees with anything. I don't like to make guarantees, but it would be pretty hard to have a blocked nose and to be breathing out your mouth. You'd have to sit and meditate with it. You'd have to watch and be taking notes on what's changing. But even that in and of itself is a breathing technique. So another OSHO meditation that involves breathing techniques, or a breathing technique, is golden light meditation. So this is a visualization, and you do calm, slow breathing, and you imagine a golden light going into your body with each breath. Now this is to do with visualizations. This is to do with the inner world and visualizing a connection between the images of your mind and your thoughts and what's happening with the breathing of your body. And that's to be done, that's to help you sleep, it's to help you relax. And it's funny how there's so many different visualizations there's so many different things that can be visualized. And it's funny that certain visualizations are for certain results and for certain parts of your being. They work on different parts of your being. So visualizing a golden light and opening up to relaxation is a really good meditation. Golden light meditation is probably the more obscure meditations from OSHO. It's because it's very simple, it's very basic, and it's only 20 minutes long. And it's often done personally, like it's a solo. It's not a group one. It's usually not done in groups. Or at least, I don't think so. I don't think I ever have seen it done in a group. I'm sure it has been at some point, but it's more of an instruction for doing in your private meditation. So it's a technique for private meditation rather than group meditation. So that's at least some of the OSHO meditations that involve breathing techniques. And it's about all that I can think of at the moment, and it's about all of them that I think is relevant to us. The main one is the chakra breathing meditation. That really is a unique and powerful process. I mean, the whole thing is about breathing. It's a whole meditation dedicated to synchronizing the breath with the energy body, or using the breath to engage the energy body. So if you're doing breathing techniques, then chakra breathing meditation is probably the number one go-to OSHO meditation. Now, there is one more which I'll quickly mention, which is heart meditation. And I'll talk about this a bit more later on in another chapter. But there's a lot that I don't like about heart meditation, and it's the only meditation where the music doesn't really support the meditation. It doesn't really help. And it's also one of those meditations which are easy to misunderstand. And if you go to the traditional version, it might even be better. So, like the Vipassana Meditation, OSHO has put his own spin on it, and I don't know if he's successfully pulled it off quite as much as the others. And yeah, I mean, I hate to criticize because there's so much beauty and richness in OSHO meditations. It's like this one meditation, or the music in this one section, in this one meditation, is the only thing that I don't like out of all the OSHO meditations. That's a pretty good track record. Like, the music for all the other meditations is amazing. It's just perfect. It works so well and supports the meditation beautifully. It really is just amazing work, what he's done. So I'll mention heart meditation, but we'll talk more about it later on in another context. So yeah, main one is chakra breathing. And yeah, Gaurashankar Meditation is also quite popular. And maybe there are even other sections in OSHO meditations where they involve the breath, but the instructions are not specifically for breathing, like in No Dimensions or in Kundalini Shaking. So keep an eye out for that if you're doing OSHO meditations. You could even use breath as a skewer for all your OSHO meditations. If you're doing a whole bunch of them and you're working with them and that's your thing for now, you could say, well, what's my breathing for each meditation? What do I do for my breathing in each one? How does the breathing change? How do I watch it? What's the effect? Can I experiment with doing different breathing in different sections? So that's a nice skewer. And I think that's everything. This has been episode 8. Learning to Breathe, OSHO Meditations. And that's all I have to say for now.